thank you for looking at all that stuff, you know, they're working on that house on 15 John.
Oh, yeah.
They're making it.
It's a lot better than it was. Progress.
One or two months, I think so.
Selectmen.
All right, good. Nobody needs to be seated, so I'm off the hook.
Oh, jeez.
Big problem.
What is this, on the TV? What's this? What's this up with? Screen?
For the TVs, yeah, just leave it in front there.
George, those are for the ejector
Don't press the
seats.
button.
Yeah, those are the ejector seats.
Everybody ready to go?
7 o'clock. Good to go.
Jeff, are we running?
Yes, we are.
We're all set, Lauren? Yep. Yeah.
All right, so it's 7 o'clock, it's April 14th. Open the Town of Winchester Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. I'm George Clausen, the chairman, Peter Marchand, vice chair, John Cooney, secretary, Louis Platt, Adam Gregory, Charlene Lavoie, Rista Malanka, and Scott Eisenlohr. Any public comment?
Hello. This is all new.
Yeah.
Do I need a microphone or can you hear me?
Push the little
Push the
mic
green-
icon
push
on
the
that
center.
round thing.
This?
No, the mic icon.
Mike,
Oh,
yeah.
whoa, radical. Hi, everybody. I'm Marianne Marino. I live at 631 Vera Road in Winstead. I'm a former commissioner on inland wetlands. I served from 2020 to 2023. I am currently an alternate on ZBA. I can't remember what month I'm in, but it hasn't been a whole year yet. And I'm here as a board member of the Highland Lake Watershed Association to deliver to you the most recent water quality report that we had done. It's a lot to read. We suggest that you do take the time to read it. But the Cliff Notes are good news, which is that the treatments that we've been doing have helped mitigate the invasives, which is fantastic. But this report, taken with the reports over the last 5 to 10 years, does show a steady decline in water quality on Highland Lake. The number one offender is stormwater runoff, and that is something that we would very much like this board to keep in mind when looking at projects around the lake in the Highland Lake District. Stormwater runoff goes into the lake when it doesn't have anywhere else to go. You guys all know this. We need to try to maintain enough impervious area on the development projects that we approve on all of the land use commissions in order to help mitigate this problem. There are other vectors, certainly, that we have to work on, which includes drainage that the town controls, but the biggest offender is development around a body of water like the lake. And we're very developed right around the lake, we all know this, but the Highland Lake District does extend outside of that lakefront area. And so we just ask you to please take in this water quality report and really consider this information as you review and approve projects on this board.
Does the report in that section that you're referring to, does it set forth some ideas or how to accomplish that besides what?
Actually, so we had, I think, 2 summits of the land use boards last year. I didn't attend the second one. I heard it was smaller and not as well attended as the first one. I remember, Rista, you being really involved in the discussion there. I think it would be great for the groups to convene again, because I don't believe we got through the whole agenda. But what was fantastic about those meetings is that we had representatives from Haley Ward, and they have lived, ate, breathed the stormwater runoff guidelines from the state of Connecticut their whole careers, which have recently been updated in the light of dramatic weather changes, increased rainfall, longer periods of heat. So they are the experts on the recommendations. So I do think, we're not. We're the Highland Lake Watershed Association, so we're just here to deliver the report. We do know that stormwater runoff is the #1 offender.
Are some of those recommendations in there, though?
No,
Oh, I see.
this is
Okay.
just the water quality report.
Gotcha, okay.
But I do think it's a great question, and all of us on our various land use commissions could do well with, some people are very well versed in this stuff and some people are not. And I think that summit was fantastic, and I would, for one, definitely show up if we restarted them. And if we can get those Haley Ward guys back, and maybe even somebody from the state who helped draft those recommendations and guidelines as it relates to development, it would be great for us. We had our first cyanobacteria bloom on Highland Lake, recorded cyanobacteria bloom on Highland Lake in October. That is a big warning sign for us. We know that the nutrients that feed cyanobacteria are increasing year over year. So we have a great chance to get ahead of it. And if we don't get ahead of it, we have examples. We can look at Bantam, we can look at Warramug, we can look at Pocatapog. They've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars mitigating their cyanobacteria issues. Those are hundreds of thousands of dollars I think we all know this town doesn't have. So let's get ahead of it. We can.
Good.
All right, so I'm gonna pass these around for you guys. And Jeff has my email address. I'm the Highland Lake Watershed Association's liaison to the Wetlands Commission, but it seems to have now turned into the liaison to the town, and I'm happy to be the liaison to this commission if you guys want me to be, so I'm easy to find.
Is there anything that prevents your association from providing recommendations or changes to our zoning regulations?
No, nothing prevents it. In fact, we'd be happy to be invited into the conversation.
Because I know in our summit meetings, we kind of just discussed kind of what each other do, where the lines are drawn, some touchy items, but we never really collectively, started discussing the details and what changes, what opportunities there are. And I think it would come from an association like you, where that you're in, that would say, hey, the 10% is not enough.
Yeah. Well, we do have pretty decent LID regulations. But look, I think that's a longer conversation, but if you guys would like to have a sort of like subcommittee meeting with representatives from this organization and the Highland Lake Watershed Association, we could certainly do that and start a conversation about getting involved in recommendations. Happy to.
Okay.
Well, that's why I was wondering if those recommendations of the experts you use are in here, because otherwise, how do we know what to do? But maybe we can follow
Yeah.
up with something.
Well,
where-
I know when I was on wetlands, we created a subcommittee for some recommendations we wanted to add into the wetlands regulation. So if you guys want to put together, it sounds like you two are really into it, Charlene and Adam. So if you guys want to create a
You've been
subcommittee
deputized.
and reach out to me, we'll start the conversation.
So, and I'll just add to that, I think that your idea of a bigger conversation is the right solution, because it's not all about regulations, it's about education and
Totally.
materials,
Mhm.
and, other things, not just stormwater, but, treating the water, and so there's a big conversation, so I
And
think.
prevention, obviously.
Prevention, right, so I think it's a bigger conversation, and I would think that's
Mm-hmm.
the right avenue, is to have that conversation and look at all of the different ways that we can help protect the lake, not just one, so. I
Well,
think-
Rista, I for one would be psyched if if you were on that subcommittee, because you are so knowledgeable. So let's do it. I just had a good conversation with Jeff and Jeremy about some actionable items right away that we can do in terms of coming up with best practices, putting them on the town website, having the town website linked to the Highland Lake Watershed Association website. Those are things we can do right away. But as it relates to development, building regulations, like, those are things that take a long time to change. So why don't we look at the regulations as they are now, talk about enforcement guidelines, that sort of thing now, and then, sure, future recommendations for changes is something that we'd be willing to roll our sleeves up and get involved in ongoing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
I've kept you long enough, thanks, everybody.
I think that's a copy.
Okay,
Okay, agenda review, anything?
Just one item, we had a communication come in by email this afternoon regarding the same solar array that some of the commissioners walked this morning. I'll just pass this down to the chairman. I didn't make copies for everyone. Just some slight updates to their plan there. They're changing the racking system from one thing to another, nothing substantial. I think the biggest thing we learned today was the tree break that remained in between the two different solar sites, not to confuse people, is going to be coming down anyway as a result of this approved project. So,
All right, we'll go over this later on.
yeah.
All right, we start the meeting with public hearings. So this is number 4, PZC 25-1 zoning regulation change application. Applicant Town of Winchester, Connecticut, proposal modification to section 4D cannabis to remove a 200-foot prohibition related to certain sensitive uses inciting cannabis establishments. Number 1, can you just tell us when this was advertised, please?
Yep, all 3 public hearings were advertised on the 2nd and the 11th. There was a little snag with the Republican American officially fully changing over to Hearst Media now. But Shane worked through it and we made sure that the ads ran.
Okay, good. All right. So let's look at what that is. I don't know where that is. Do you have that?
What is it you'd like,
Just
George?
the word, well, the word,
The
the wording
drafting,
of
the
it.
draft of the proposed, the
I've
regulation
got it.
change, that means there's
Willie,
gotta be a draft regulation.
Okay, first of all, is everybody familiar with this? This has been going on for quite some time. We talked about it. So what is being suggested here is, first of all, Public Act 21-1, an act concerning responsible and equitable regulation of adult use cannabis, legalizes adult recreational marijuana in Connecticut. All uses covered by this section shall be governed by CGS 21A 408-1 to 21A 408-70, inclusive of the regulations of Connecticut state agencies as they may be amended. In order to promote, preserve, and protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the town, the commission may grant a special permit to allow the siting of retail, hybrid, retail, and micro-cultivation cannabis establishments in the town gateway, TG, town center, TC, and production innovation, PI, as follows. Number 1, no building, structure, or premises shall be used, and no building or structure shall be constructed, reconstructed, extended, moved, or altered that is intended or designed to be used as a cannabis retail, hybrid retail, or micro-cultivator establishment if any part of such building, structure, or premises is situated, and this modification now says located on Main Street, extended from Park Place west to Monroe Street. That's not being permitted. What we had before was within 200 feet from the boundary line of any residential zone or any part of a school or daycare building placed of worship or playground. Number 2, cannabis retail and hybrid retail site plan and application for a special permit shall be submitted and reviewed in accordance with 3.j. Special permit, special exceptions of these regulations, subject to the following additional requirements. A, this is the new. A location map shall be provided showing all sensitive uses within 200 feet of the property lines of the property on which the cannabis retail or hybrid retail facility is proposed. For the purposes of this section, sensitive uses shall be defined as a property on which any part of it lies a school, daycare, place of worship, or playground. The commission may deny the application based on proximity to the above uses if found to be in conflict with the standards set forth in this section and in section 3.j.4, consideration for special permit. B, traffic management plan, including parking, that's been added, shall be provided that demonstrates adequate safety measures for vehicular and pedestrian traffic in response to the site conditions and conditions along adjacent streets. Those were all in the prior regulation. The new part was including parking. C, hours of operations. This is all pre-existing. Hours of operations, sales to consumers shall be between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sunday. D, again, already existing. Cannabis products shall not be smoked, consumed, or ingested on the premises of any retail or hybrid retail establishment. So the rest of it is all has been already approved, except for under 3, cannabis microcultivation, letter B, a traffic management plan, including parking, is the new change there. So does anybody on the commission have any,
Can you go back to this section, the big section that was, that one? So it doesn't change the 200 feet, it just puts in a special permit process?
What it does is it removes, there was a strict prohibition
Yeah,
within
within 200 feet.
right, and so now it
Yeah.
just, it requires, it's
A review.
all of it's a special permit anyway, but the
Yeah,
commission has,
okay.
right, has discretion there.
okay, anybody else? Comments or questions? Okay. All right, anybody in the audience have any comments with regards to this application? Yes.
Sorry, go up there, or is it Steve?
Come on up and then identify yourself as well.
Well, thank you, members of the commission, Commissioner. My name's Thomas McCree. I'm here representing Still River Wellness. We're a locally owned and operated hybrid cannabis dispensary, serving both medical patients and adult use consumers here in Torrington, Connecticut. I'm here today to respectfully express my concern regarding the proposed removal of the 200-foot buffer between cannabis retail establishments and sensitive land uses, including residential zones, schools, daycares, and playgrounds. The existing buffer was put in place to ensure that cannabis businesses are thoughtfully integrated into our communities. It helps protect children and families from unnecessary exposure, neighborhoods from increased nuisance complaints, and the town's ability to regulate land use responsibly and with foresight. Removing this buffer would contradict the intent of Public Act 21-1, which was crafted to legalize cannabis in a way that promotes public health and preserves community standards. While we don't have confirmation of the exact site, it appears that Verano or Zen Leaf has publicly declared and told my staff members that they will be opening up in Winstead. This raises the concern that this amendment is being crafted to suit their needs, not the needs of the residents. Zoning policy should be developed for the benefit of the community, not for the convenience of a single large corporation that isn't based in Connecticut. There's no demonstrated community need to bring another dispensary into this area, especially when nearby towns like Torrington and Canton already offer access. If market demand doesn't justify this change and community members haven't requested it, then it appears to be driven entirely by corporate profit, not policy or public interest. Zen Leaf's announcement, may be bold, but the responsibility isn't to them, to the residents of Winstead, long-term planning principles, and to equity and fairness in implementation. So I urge the commission to reject this amendment, maintain the 200-foot buffer, and ensure that zoning decisions are made for the community and not this corporation. Thank you for your time and thoughtful considerations.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sir, do you have an extra copy of that?
Oh, no, I don't. This is mine.
Do you mind if I make one, just for the record?
Sure. Yeah.
Anybody else in the audience have any comments or questions?
Actually, you can take that one. Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
All right. Commission members, anybody have any more comments or additional thoughts on this?
So I would just note, that I would, with the 200-foot buffer, that's a prohibition regardless of where the property is, whether it's behind it, next to it, side of it. It also causes confusion if we approve a use and then a daycare or church comes in afterwards. I think the change in the regulations, which is similar to Torrington under the regulations that this was approved, requires that all those sensitive uses be put on the map. Then we as commission members can review it to then determine if, in fact, there's a negative input. So I just wanted to make that clear that I think it doesn't change our discretion to review the regulations for those impacts to those uses, but it allows us to review that and give that discretion, not a straight across prohibition against it, because it may not make sense in some cases. And I do think that it makes sense to do that.
Okay.
So just my 2 cents.
All right. Anybody else have a comment?
I did review some of the regulations for retail, and by the numbers, I think there's 72 retail locations in Connecticut, 44 municipalities, and out of the 44, all of them had some sort of setback requirement, not setback requirement, but distance requirement. Torrington was, I thought was well written too, and to your point, it says, a map shall also be provided, drawn to scale, showing all parcels within 500 feet of the proposed retail establishment, which specifically highlights all parcels with the following uses: public parks, public playgrounds, schools, recreational facilities, child care centers, and libraries. So I would say our 200 foot is coming in under, the Connecticut average, so be it. But whether it makes sense for the community, I think we should, at least on a case-by-case basis, take a look at the proposal and understand how it may impact the community. Doing away with it, sorry.
As opposed to a blanket prohibition, which
Yeah.
already
Yep.
exists.
So allows some, allows us to apply principles for land use and protecting community, on each basis case. I doubt there'll be another retail, because it's gonna go to Connecticut Social Equity. They're gonna decide whether, there is enough market here for another, retail location. That's not for us to decide. So it's us to provide the opportunity, but yeah.
They have to do that first before they even come before this commission? In other words, they gotta seek the state of Connecticut approval before they come and see whether
They
they
have to
can.
have a state license,
No,
yes.
they need local approval first.
I see.
Then they can go and get the state permit.
Mhm.
But just to be clear, Torrington's isn't a strict prohibition.
Right, it's not a strict. They provide a map and
Yeah.
you review the map.
It's more along these lines.
We copied this pretty much from
Yeah.
Torrington's regulations.
Okay. Anybody else on the commission? Anybody else in the audience have any comments or questions? Need a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close PZC 25-1 zoning regulation change application.
I'll second.
John, second. Any discussion of the motion? All in favor? Okay, the motion is closed with a public hearing, so we'll take up the response to that as it's on the agenda. All right, the next issue is number 4B, PZC 25-2, zoning regulation change proposal, decodification of current subdivision regulations. Now, this has been, we've talked about this for a long time. It's amazing that
2
we're
years.
still doing it. But this is a modification of the regulations just to fit into the town website. So there really isn't anything else that we're doing.
So it's not a substantive change, it's just a technical change to get it into a different format?
Yes.
Okay,
And wording, there's wording that is brought up to the state statutes. and
But
things
it's
so
like
there
that.
are
also-
some changes, so,
What's clerical only?
Yeah, basically a lot of clerical ones. And then at our previous meetings, we met with the company that's doing the codification. They came up with, if you look at the listings of different zones, what's allowed, and, you know, for an index, much easier to find
okay.
if you look at the last part of what they gave us.
So
Much
the
better.
commission is confident that it isn't any substantive changing, it's just
True.
administrative, clerical
Yeah.
stuff.
We had a lot of meetings going over
I know,
line
yes.
by line.
Right.
Line by line with the company, with the
Well, I
Zoom
know that,
meeting.
the issue is not that you didn't do it, but then what happens when they get it?
Well, actually, we went over what they were handing
Yeah,
back
yeah,
to us.
okay, all right.
And I asked a question about how quickly, if we find an error, how quickly they can change things.
Yeah.
And relatively quickly, it can be. If there's an error that was made on their part or something that was missed, so.
I think unfortunately, this got lengthened because of the prior town manager, the way he just kind of shoved it down our throats.
Well, and the other reason I bring it up, George, is because we've had town planners who, where we said the map is supposed to look like this, and we get it back and it looks like that.
Good point.
And then trying to change it is like trying to
That's on our
change the
agenda too tonight.
Constitution.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You've missed a couple good meetings.
yeah,
We've been working on this.
yeah, okay, yeah.
No, but you're,
But anyway,
that's a point
that's
well taken.
the
because this is one of
historical
those-
reference, like,
Yeah.
oh my God, once it gets in there, what happens? How do you get it back?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, let's say there's a discrepancy. Is there a point at which the, whether it's the applicant or the town can say, well, no, it meant to be this one,
Yeah,
right? And do we have ability to deny some application that's maybe it is applied to the wrong regulation?
right.
If there is a discrepancy. Now, this is all hypothetical.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to comment on hypotheticals.
Yeah.
But his point's a good one, and that is if it was supposed to be this requirement, and somehow an applicant sees something different because of an error, which one applies?
Well, I will say
Obviously, this one is supposed to under the law, but,
our current zoning regulations have errors in them as well. We found that even in the course of going through with Claudia at ECO to
Yeah.
go on these regulations, we all had different versions, different paging.
And there you
different-
have
yeah.
it, right.
So the fact that we're gonna codify it now, one location,
Yeah.
clean, that we could have updated as needed.
Okay.
Point out errors, get them corrected quickly. I
Yeah.
think it's a move in the right direction.
All right.
yeah,
I
for
totally
sure.
agree. I'm not yet.
But, right,
The other thing that I'll add about the codification of it is if we find an error, and let's say it's, staff finds it, or the commission finds it, or we find it through the works of an applicant, we can actually put up a memo of some sort, right, on the codified website that notes that.
The
that, you know, that there's a
discrepancy.
clerical error here, the text should read, and then on the cycle, that whatever the cycle gets set at, probably quarterly, on the next cycle, general code will update it and correct the
Okay.
language. So that's the nice thing about the codified regulation, we can update it on the fly.
Anybody else in the commission have any questions? Anybody in the audience have any questions or comments? Welcome. It's the second time I've seen you at a meeting. Anyways,
Nothing better to do.
all right.
I told you.
I'll make a motion to close PZC 25-2, zoning regulation change e-codification.
Second.
Second, Adam. Any comments on the motion? All in favor of the motion? Okay,
Actually, that should have been subdivision, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, this
Yep,
is,
next one is zoning.
yes. Oh, I see, the title on this
Same.
thing was
Got it.
different.
Yeah,
Okay.
we kind of jumped ahead. We talked zoning, but
Yeah.
It was
subdivision was
subdivision.
the-
Subdivision, yeah.
They could
Same
technically
issue.
And
be
in
Yeah.
the
fined if we
subdivision
wanted.
regulations, there were very few changes
Oh,
in
yeah.
that, even in the wording,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
not like there was in zoning.
Yeah, that took almost
Yeah.
no review.
So 4C is the PZC 25-3 zoning regulation change. Proposal E-codification of current zoning regulations, including any amendments since adoption. It's the same discussion that we had just now on this, on the subdivision. Anybody have any comments or questions with regards to it?
Driveway was included, right, or driveway.
Mhm.
The parking as principal use was included.
Yeah. They're supposed
I
to-
missed one meeting, but awesome.
Yeah, because those are the two things we question about, the parking and driveways, park being included, so.
Yeah, they were all included in the final draft.
Great.
The commissioners have anything? Anybody in the audience have any comments or questions? Okay, need a motion to close that.
I'll
public
make a
hearing.
motion to close PZC 25-3 zoning regulation change.
Second.
John has seconded. Any comments with regards to the motion? All in favor of the motion? Public hearing's closed.
Mr. Chairman, just a bit of housekeeping. I think we're typically used to carrying actionable items down to old business to vote. You're not going to see them on the agenda there. It was contemplated that we would vote on
As
each
we
of these
went.
items as we close them. So it's your pleasure whether you want to vote on these 3 public hearings now or push it off.
No, that's fine, that's fine. All right, while we're in this public hearing section, then let's take the first one, which was PZC 25-1. This is a zoning regulation application. This is the proposal to Section 4D, cannabis to remove a 200-foot prohibition related to certain sensitive uses inciting cannabis establishments. So that's, as we talked about it during the public hearing. Any, anybody
Do you have
wanna
any
make a
printed
mo-
motions?
We have any printed motions?
Yeah.
Did somebody make a motion to approve it?
No, wait, no printed
That's
copy
what
to
we're
read.
doing here now. Okay,
Read it.
sure.
Motion to approve that the Winchester Planning and Zoning Commission adopt the following zoning regulation text amendments, modification to section 4.d, cannabis to remove a 200-foot prohibition related to certain sensitive uses inciting cannabis establishments.
Do we have a second for the motion?
Second.
John, second it. Discussion of it. Well, first of all, you're not seated.
Oh, so I can't discuss it? I should have discussed it in the public
During
hearing.
the public
Okay.
hearing.
I'll tell Adam.
Any comments from the commissioners?
No, but that's the motion.
Removing prohibition. You're allowed.
We, no comments, then all in favor of the motion? Okay, looks like unanimous. So let's sign that around and we'll get that
That's what
passed
the
out.
motion says. It should roll up before. My bad. Hmm?
I second that.
Yes, you did, yep.
The vision survey.
All right,
Can
the,
you scan that thing or can you go online and
This is aside. Thank you. All right, the next issue is number 4B. This is the zoning regulation change which pertains to the subdivision regulations. And that's listed that way. So you have somebody want to read the approval suggestion?
Motion that the Winchester Planning and Zoning Commission approve the codification of the subdivision regulations into the town of Winchester code, ordinance, and regulations.
I'll second it.
Okay, Louis seconded. Any discussion of the motion?
Has it commented either way? Not really. No comments received. There it is. Just ask why Cog didn't respond.
Anybody have any comments with regards to the motion to approve this? All in favor of the motion?
Why didn't COG respond?
Pardon me?
Why didn't COG respond?
Subdivision regulations are not required to be sent to the COG
It's
for,
under all three of them. COG didn't respond to any of them. It's on your notes. Those are your notes,
You know
staff
what,
report.
we did get a COG referral, that's probably a holdover from the last meeting, I apologize for that. That's a copy paste error from the last meeting. We did get COG referral response for A
Copy.
and C.
Then let's get a copy of
to
it
the
and put it in that
Yeah, it's in
file.
file, it is in file.
What'd they say?
They had no comment.
Oh,
I mean, essentially, they had no comment. We got
Okay.
a response from them, and they had no
okay,
comment.
All right, so we still need one on the
got
zoning.
one now?
Yeah.
Just trying to keep
That's
order.
good. Thank you.
sorry.
All right, this is a April 14th motion that the Winchester Planning and Zoning Commission approve the codification of the zoning regulations of the town of Winchester Code of Ordinances and Regulations. So I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right, any discussion of the motion? All in favor of the motion? Thank you.
Because I noticed this guy.
You have the documents, you have it signed? No, you have it approved. Did everybody sign it?
Yeah, we've got it.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, number 5, old business, PZC 25-4, earth excavation permit renewal. This is Puritalo Machiro, and that's going to be held on April 28th for public hearing. Is that not correct?
So it came to my attention after our last meeting when a hearing was set for it, that historically the commission has not required public hearings for renewals of earth excavation permits. That's what I was told. Which is fine, I think if that's the case, if historically, you know, and doing a little bit of research and talking to colleagues, the regulations dictate whether there's a hearing or not for renewal. Your regulations aren't abundantly clear about that. It just says that no permit shall be issued for a period exceeding 2 years. Permits may be renewed for an additional 2-year period upon application of the commission and payment of a fee, provided the commission finds that the permittee is fully compliant with the regulations and the terms and conditions of the expiring permit. So I would rely on the commission to make the decision or the determination whether or not a renewal, a public hearing is required for the renewal. And then I think we should have a further conversation just about clarifying that language a little bit and removing the fee, because the fee is actually set by the Board of Selectmen, so we need to pull that out of your regulation at some point. But I'll look to the commission for determination on the hearing.
My opinion is we keep the public hearing. We're doing it over 2 years. It used to be a year. And I think it was important because we had some busy times here. There was a lot of activity. And we're starting to get back into that, I think. So that's my opinion.
I think it's good to have it, just in case if there is neighbors, you know, there is some discrepancies there.
Anybody else have a comment?
Would it still be the same date?
It'll be April 28th.
28th, our next
So
meeting.
it's just got to be advertised.
Yeah. Which I think the first advertisement is already gone, so.
I don't see a reference to it in the folder. We'll have to
Okay, we'll check
verify
with
with Shane.
Yeah, but the hearing was set, so it should,
Right.
it'll move forward.
Okay, Number 6 is new business, PZC 25-5, special permit applicant Justin O'Neill, location 150 Ashley Road. Proposal construct 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,489 square foot modular ranch home.
Good evening.
Evening.
Hello,
How's everybody doing?
just your name and,
Oh, Justin O'Neill, sorry. And this is in regards to 150 Ashley Road, new development.
okay, tell us what you want to tell us.
Oh, yeah, sure. So we're looking to build a modular home. Does everybody have all the drawings, documentation?
Yes.
Fantastic, okay. So, the first document's gonna be the plot plan. So this is on a 5-acre parcel, off of Ashley Road. And it's set mostly in the middle of the property, so it's not close to any boundaries. There's plenty of abundance land, between the houses. And it's just your basic, 3-bedroom ranch, nothing crazy. Basement, garage, septic system, and well. And then attached in the documents is going to be the plot plan, it's going to be the foundation plans, and then the floor plan as well as elevations of what the home looks like. I know with it being a modular home, it requires a special permit, so I want to make sure you had all the elevations and necessary information.
So you've got an existing driveway coming in?
Yes, per the last landowner that owned it before our family purchased it, there were development plans with a basic driveway already put in place.
Yeah, that'll be DOT anyways, that's a state highway.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on this application?
So basically, the only thing we're required to have a public hearing is because it's a modular home and not stick-built. I mean, the way I'm reading the regulation, right? That's the same.
So we've got to set that public hearing up. So
And
we'll do it.
unfortunately, in our regulation, really, there's nothing that, we can't waive that public hearing.
No, because the way it
Right.
hinges on the definition of manufactured home.
Yes.
Yeah, so we can look at.
And unfortunately, yeah, like I say, we can't waive
Yeah,
it.
you
It's,
can't.
so,
That's something we ought to look at.
We should.
that's something we need when we're
This is one of
addressing
the items that
regulations
we
because
flagged for
it's-
further
yeah.
review.
Yeah.
Right, it's a hardship for them. It delays construction. So,
Yeah,
Now we'll have our regulations codified, they'll be easier to change for things like this.
but this is,
Doesn't come up that much, that's
No.
why it's never been.
well, it's going to start coming up,
Yeah,
I
well,
think. You're going to see a lot
We'll see more and more of that.
More and more people are.
Buying the modular
relying on
homes.
modulars.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I
We get a
see.
fair amount of calls about them. I think some people get scared away when they hear it needs to go through the special permit process.
But that, where's the modular coming from?
It is coming from Kansas, Illinois area. So it'll be shipped in 2 pieces.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, so we need to set a special permit, public hearing for this.
Yeah, I'd set that for the 28th.
That acceptable? Is that acceptable to you?
Yes.
Okay. You
April
got
28th,
time to
that's 2 weeks,
advertise it?
yeah.
Okay.
That way there we can get it done and
So will the garage be modular?
The, no, it'll be,
Stick built?
it's aluminum. Steel building,
Oh, okay.
yes.
That'll go through the building permit process.
Yeah.
But I wanted to show elevations of what it would look
Yeah,
like.
no,
for
at
a
least it
property.
shows everything, which is great.
All right, so we'll set that for the 28th of April.
7 PM?
Yes, 7
Yes.
PM.
Okay, fantastic.
I'll keep you informed.
Thank you.
All right, does anybody have any other questions? All right, awesome, thank you, nice meeting you all.
Thank you. Okay, new business 6B, PZC 25-6, special permit applicant Henry Joseph Noak III, location 39 Wetmore Avenue. Proposal to convert existing single-family home to a 2-family home. What's the zone there? Town single-family?
Where is it? Is there-
Wetmore Avenue?
Oh,
30.
oh, yeah.
CSF, Council.
Okay. All right.
Good evening all. My name is Henry Noe. As you said, the special permit. Purchased the house back in September on Wetmore Avenue. Looking to convert it from a single-family, 2,900 square foot, 3-story, 7-bedroom house to a 2-family house, first floor, secluded for my mother, and I would live on the 2nd and 3rd floor with my girlfriend. Seeking a special permit so that I could convert the existing structure as it is, no additional changes to the exterior of the house, except for enclosing the first floor to be its own apartment with separate utilities. Second floor would have its own utilities.
You got enough parking on the property to be able to deal with this?
So I'm having a surveyor for A2 drawing come, working through the estimate right now with him so he can come out. The driveway fits 4.5 cars, so 1.25 cars plus 0.75 for a third car. So there is a 10-foot easement from the side of the property. The driveway's entirely straight, 4.5 cars could fit on it. The plan would be to extend the driveway to the left between the driveway and the house, so not to encroach on the 10-foot easement, so that 2 cars can park behind each other on one side of the driveway, 2 cars can park behind each other on the other side of the driveway, and then they would use the common driveway to remove themselves or to back out of the
How
driveway.
long before you get the survey done?
I'm sorry.
How long before you have a survey provided for us?
I just got the estimate. He said about 3 weeks or 4 weeks out he is, so I was gonna call tomorrow after this hearing.
Well, this isn't a hearing, actually.
I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to get what you're trying to do and,
Help them move it along, yeah.
yeah, what else do you need in the application to make it complete?
We actually sent a memo out to the property owner last week and got most of the responses. The biggest thing for us is the survey.
The survey.
We've got to have
Yeah.
a survey on that property with the site plan on
All
it.
right.
So we really can't set a public hearing.
Well, I don't want to set something up prematurely.
No.
Prematurely. Sometimes these surveys take a while to do.
Yeah, he said he's about 3 to 4 weeks out, so he just gave me the estimate today, actually. So I was gonna call him tomorrow to schedule that. I already had an architect, but unfortunately, untimely passing in the end of February, so I'm back to the books of getting the A2 drawing.
Okay.
One thing we could do is we'll leave this on the agenda as old business moving forward. We'll be in contact with the homeowner, and once that survey is prepared, we'll get you to set a meeting. I mean, you meet every 2 weeks, so we see you regularly, and when we
Yeah.
know that that survey is prepared.
Yeah, we have 2 meetings every month.
Well, if we, I don't have my schedule, but once we get the survey, then we'll have to wait at least 2 weeks. Can we set the schedule for, what month are we in? April,
We're gonna
for
be in May.
the second meeting in
In
May? And then, yeah,
well,
or,
it's
you know,
just looking
to
at
the
it.
public hearing if we need to. At least that way it's moving along.
Second
We're not
meeting in
having
May
a
is
meeting the
Memorial Day,
second- Yeah,
so.
that's
that
what I was gonna
Monday,
say, yeah.
so
That's it, May tw-
So it'll be the first meeting in June.
26th, it'll be the first meeting in June, which will be the 9th. Right.
What's the first meeting in May?
No.
The 12th.
So that
12th.
would give them 4 weeks, and we
No.
can maybe do that and then table it until the first.
Well,
Well, that depends on whether his
he's
surveyor can
not
get
gonna
out
be
there,
able to
yeah.
do the survey for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's gotta be finished and then presented to you, but,
What is your timeframe? Would a meeting in June, I know you said your mom is moving in, is there?
Yeah, the meeting in June is fine. If I can get the time frame from, I'll talk to the surveyor tomorrow and get a date,
Yeah, I mean, that
permanent
would be-
date. I can always give you an update of what that date is, and if it fits in an earlier agenda, you can squeeze me in, that'd be great. If you can't, I understand.
okay.
I mean, we could tentatively set the public hearing for June 9th. That's our first meeting in June.
Yes.
Okay,
Well, at least that gives you a date, you know, to give to the surveyor that you need it by then, kind of push them if it helps.
I appreciate it.
yeah, we don't try to delay things if
No.
it's gonna be considered, so.
Are we asking that the modified driveway be included in the survey or just existing current survey?
Now Jeremy does them for both.
Or whatever they
Well,
propose,
forward.
you know, they should have drawings of what the driveway is.
So organized.
Well,
proposed.
he's got it on the draft.
Got it on here on the
site
draft.
plan, So if they plot that out,
Good thing.
Yeah, the intent would be to give you an A2 drawing that gives you the proposed
Yeah.
parking
Yeah,
lot
that'd be
pattern.
good.
That'd be good.
Can we ask questions now? Is that okay? Yeah?
Wait till public hearing.
All right, well, I
Yeah,
just had a
public
question
hearing.
about the
What was this?
conversion, whether he needed accesses built.
That's up to the fire marshal, the building official,
Yeah.
not ours. Because
And
you have
if
to have a
it- if
second
it-
means of egress.
And if he needs accesses built, they have to be on the front, on the survey.
That would be last one.
Oh,
So I'm having new windows put in, so the egress is there for the second floor for a second entrance, but it does have a back porch. And there is a secondary side entrance, it's like a common hallway that goes all the way up to the third floor. So it would be to encapsulate that as the common hallway, so that there's two entrances and exits on the first floor, and then you'd have the entrance to the second floor plus the egress.
So include it, you're saying, include it in the,
okay. So June 9th, we're targeting. So if this can get, moved along quicker, just let them know, and then we'll work on it. We got another meeting in 2 weeks.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
All set?
You're
Thank you,
all set.
folks.
Thank you.
Good luck. Thank you.
All right. Number 7, discussion of updated zoning map.
Myself set up, I'll pull it up on the screen like we did a couple of weeks ago. As you'll remember, we had a conversation about a number of potential changes and changes that should have been made in the past that, whatever, clerical errors, things happen. But I'll just zip over the map really quickly and talk about those three areas that we talked about. So, number 1 is the former KFC on 44. That's in Town Gateway, as it should be now in this current draft version. We talked about, I think it's 208 Old New Hartford Road. It's a single-family home in this position here where my cursor is. That's currently in Town Gateway on its own. It's surrounded by rural residential, so the commission, we talked a couple of weeks ago about switching that to rural residential to match its neighbors. So that's shown here. In this area, these 3 streets, and the names of those are gonna, I haven't learned all your street names yet, please forgive me.
Oakdale,
Yeah, Oakdale and,
Palmer.
Colony,
yeah, perfect, thank you. So we talked about this area, all of these lots here along the west, or east side rather, these here along the south side, and then these are all currently in rural residential. We looked at the size and shape and configuration of those and thought it made a lot more sense for those to be in the town single-family zone, so that's what's being shown here. And this is a manufacturing facility or some kind of an industrial use facility. I don't know what's going on in that building currently, but it's set up as an industrial site. And we discussed flipping that over to Town Gateway to make it conforming. So that's what this current map is showing. And then the other area that we talked about was on the west side of the lake, Overlook Drive. Currently, these three lots and all of these lots along the, I'll call that the north side of Overlook Drive, are in the Highland Lake District zone. And so we we had the conversation a couple of weeks ago about switching those to town single family, and so that's what's
we had
reflected here.
originally.
yes, definitely.
So those changes have been made. I haven't found, as well
Wasn't there-
as,
Yeah, okay.
there was a change in, let's see, it was, it's for the marina.
Yeah, that's,
And I think it was Willie who brought to my attention that the lot lines were off on the map. And so I've adjusted that to reflect what you approved a couple of years ago, I think about a year and a half ago. That's 206, I
Yeah.
forgot the number, but
Yeah,
it's
there was one
Lake
lot
Street.
in there. Yep, right.
Yeah, right, there's an access drive. And what happened there is that the parcel lines on the underlying parcel map, the assessor's database, those have not yet been updated. And so when I was updating the zoning map, that's all based on the parcels, and I didn't have the latest parcels, so I made some adjustments on my end. That change still needs to be made in the assessor's office, but at least the zoning map will be reflective of the reality. So those are the changes that we've made, those are the conversations. I gave you a list, I think, in the staff report of all of those between 2 weeks ago, the staff report 2 weeks ago, and the one for tonight, it catches all of those. Oh, yeah, the one thing you'll notice is that these colors are different than your current map. And my goal here is to bring this into an alignment with sort of standard zoning colors. Yellows are typically residential, reds are typically commercial, and then industrial areas are sort of pinks and purples. And your current map, when I first looked at it before I started working here, I thought it was really strange that the entire Lake District was commercial because it's bright red on the map. And I'm just not used to seeing that. So I would suggest a color change to update to be a little bit more standard with
So, the only issue is over here where you got Overlook Road and all that, is all that drains down into the lake. I mean, all of 263, all the way up to, almost to the top, that road just drains right now. The drain that comes through my property, there's a drain that comes through Jay Case's property. So, any water that's on those properties ends up in the lake. And that's part of the watershed, and, I mean, we just had a presentation here and do we need, is that defeating the purpose?
So I think there's a bigger conversation to be had, and I know Jeff and I chatted with Mary Ann, and you sort of joined in on the tail end of it, and I don't know where we were in the conversation when you stepped in, but one of the things that the commission may want to think about going forward, and it's, this is just a thought, but one of the things you may want to consider going forward is an overlay zone that captures the entire lake watershed and has specific requirements having to do with stormwater runoff and buffer zones, setbacks, and all of those things, but that would apply over the top of whatever the underlying zone is, right? Because the Highland Lake District certainly doesn't capture the entire watershed, especially on that west side. Of course. But to extend the Highland Lake District watershed, the Highland Lake District throughout the entire watershed may not make sense because of your lot configuration. Rural residential, I think, is a 2-acre zone. You don't necessarily want to throw Highland Lake District up there, which is a 1-acre zone. So I think a watershed overlay zone may be the most appropriate thing to talk about moving forward. That's the type of work I've done in the past. I've written one of those, and we can have that conversation. But I understand your point, and it's well taken.
It's gonna include a large area.
Right, it would include a large area. You do have good LID regulations in your regs right now, and so we could tie that overlay back to your LID regs to make sure that those properties are following those best management practices and doing, the homeowners and the property owners up there are doing the things that they need to be doing, even when they don't necessarily know what they're supposed to be doing, but because the regulations tell them that. So it's a conversation I think that we can have moving forward.
But those properties on that, when we set this thing up, when we did the new zoning regulations, we talked about defining the edge of the Highland Lake District with properties that are, alongside the Wakefield Boulevard.
Had frontage on.
And not going way beyond that. So why these things got into the Highland Lake, we had a planner here that just wasn't doing what we asked him to do. He came in actually maybe halfway through when we were putting the regulations together, before we'd even tried to act on it. So I think your suggestion is a good suggestion, because it's going to talk about a much greater area. It's an important consideration, because the town has done a terrible job of the stormwater management that they should be handling, because they haven't done it around the lake, the hardcore stuff that hasn't.
The state hasn't been much better either.
Well, no,
Flood control dams.
the state's always tried to.
They're terrible.
But our intention was not to have, I've been in my house since 1971, and when the sewer system was going around the lake, that's when it was expanded to a distance from the lake outside of the boundaries. And it didn't include everything in the whole, stormwater management potentially. But, so my property was impacted by it, and others in our neighborhood. So we had, it just didn't make a lot of sense. So I think what you're suggesting is we need to do something with this drainage business. and the consideration of how you do develop the property and control it, because none of that has been handled through the years. So we've got a lot of, I mean, our houses in our neighborhood are like 1955 or 1954. So a lot of that's, nobody was even thinking about that stuff.
That was the days when get it to the lake as fast as you can get it there. Get it off the roads, get it off my lawn.
Yeah.
Right,
Oh,
right,
yeah.
right.
So there's so much that's gone on, and I think we're way ahead of that here in our community, but I think we've got to, what your suggestion is, I think very well taken.
We can certainly start that conversation. I can bring you some samples of regulations that are out there. I know that we want to talk to Highland Lake Watershed, that group as well, and keep Mary Ann and those folks in the loop, and I know you're part of that group
You know,
too,
if you're
so
looking
that's
at that
helpful.
too, you know, you've got two other bodies of water we should be looking at. Park Pond.
Yes.
There's a large watershed there, and then you've got Lake Winchester, which is not developed a lot, but you've still got the watershed
Yeah.
going in there.
So it may be
Yeah,
a
we
lake
should look at all
watershed zone
three.
that applies to all three.
Yes.
All three.
Yes.
No?
And it would ultimately be an overlay zone that shows up on your zoning map, so it's clearly defined where that applies, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds a good idea.
If there are any other changes to this map that you want to make before we sort of finalize the draft and bring it to you for a public hearing, with that, the door's open, I'm making these changes myself, so
Much
you
better
just
than
tell me
it
what you want.
Yeah, okay.
Definitely. Much better. I'm
Yeah.
sure we missed something somewhere, but
Well,
we'll
no,
find it eventually.
It's a good improvement.
Hmm.
Okay, anybody else have any questions or comments? How about you, Shirley? You haven't been here in a while.
I'm so impressed, I'm speechless.
Oh, Jesus.
See, we did do something while you were
No,
gone.
I don't mean you, I mean this. Holy smokes.
Little different, huh?
Wow, it's like where did I come into another reality here? Nice work. Yeah, it's really good.
It is. It's a pleasure being here.
Wow.
No, if there's no other changes from any commission members, then it's ready, yeah. I don't think we have any applications for zone change that we know of coming in, right?
None that we know.
Okay, because if we had any in the pipeline, I would hold off on a public hearing and wait to incorporate those, but if there's none in the pipeline, then
Why do
yeah.
we need a public hearing? None of these are changed, these are what were originally adopted
I
several years ago.
I hear you.
With
But
public
you're still
hearings.
changing
I hear you, but the map was published back in 2017, it was adopted and published, and whether it was accurate or not.
Even though it was wrong.
Yeah,
It's what we were talking about a few minutes ago
right.
here.
I would run it through the system again, because it has been 7 or 8 years at this point.
Yeah.
Just run it through the system again and
No, I
do
think-
it properly, yeah.
I think we should do it, so.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so what do we have to do, set up a public hearing on the map?
Yeah, unless there's other changes, I think it's ready for that. Yeah.
Okay, can we set it up for the end of the month?
Let's go a little bit further out, because it
It's gotta go to
need
close.
COG referrals and neighbor
First
town.
meeting in May, is that enough time?
I would
That's
go,
May 9th?
I would probably.
Or push it
no,
out to June?
I would do
Beginning
the
of
June
June?
meeting,
Okay.
because we're supposed to
Yeah.
do the referrals 35
Right.
days in advance,
Okay.
yeah.
So we'll
So
have to go
June,
to the
June's
first
good.
meeting in
on
June.
that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
June
June
9th.
9th then.
All right.
Besides having, real content, it's organized. I'm like,
Isn't this amazing? You gotta have a legitimate conversation.
take my breath away.
We're not, haven't been exposed to all this.
I- We're
Okay,
we're easily impressed at this point.
7B is discussion, interpretation of impervious surface definition.
So I think I mentioned this in the report to you, we're still going through your LID, your Highland Lake, and some of the definition stuff. We talked about this a few weeks ago. I hope to have you a semi coherent report for you at your next meeting, and if not, then it'll be the following.
Okay, 7C is discussion, possible future application. Heliport's not associated with medical facilities.
So this was another one that we've talked about this now in a couple of meetings, I think. I gave you a number of example regulations from around the state, I think for your last meeting 2 weeks ago. And so I guess at this point, I'd ask any commission members if you have any comments, if this is something you want to move forward, if it's something, I don't know if the intention was to receive an application for this, or if it was to do a commission-initiated change. We were trying to get the feelers out there to see whether or not it was something the commission could even would even entertain, so that we could then guide the property owner to, to the right direction.
What are the comments?
Why, somebody is actually interested in?
Somebody is interested in a heliport, yes.
Is there,
In addition with other uses on the property, we
We're-
expect an
we're going up in the
application
world.
soon.
We're having helicopters.
what zoning areas would it be in?
Rural residential.
No, it's in Town Gateway.
Gateway?
Yeah.
I
Town
mean,
gateway.
yeah, I mean, I don't really see an issue with it in the gateway, because that's kind of, we set it up as an industrial manufacturing type
Yeah.
gateway, and that was a reason for that designation when we originally did that, but, as long as it wasn't rural residential or.
Is that where the Hartford,
Things like that.
the healthcare heliport is in Town Gateway? I mean, that's a medical
Should be.
facility, but that's
Yeah.
kind
Yeah,
of,
yeah, it is. But they're exempt anyway, so.
no, I understand, but
And I think it's important to note,
Helicopters are
and we
scary.
talked about this last time too, I mean, a private helicopter really could land anywhere. So what you would be regulating is the physical pad that would be installed on the property for
Yeah.
semi-regular
You're
takeoff.
giving distances from where that landing zone would be,
Yep.
things like that,
Do we,
setting parameters for it.
do we know what class size helicopter?
No, we don't.
Not
It's
bl-
private. I
not
mean,
Blackhawks or anything, right?
Oh, gosh.
Really?
So if this is gonna be a commercial thing, and he's gonna land helicopters, as a commercial business, doesn't he have to have a flight path?
So it would not, I think what we're talking about here is a private helicopter,
For
although
private
it
use.
would be potentially on a commercial piece of property in
Because
the
the
town
medical
gateway
center
zone.
had to have a flight path.
Right, right, but, and that's a commercial operation. This would be a private operation, a private owner landing his own helicopter and
Well, then-
taking off again. So that is not considered commercial aviation under the FAA guidelines.
So, but if he's landing in a commercial area, is it still private use?
It's still private use, it does not make it a commercial enterprise. Because think of it this way, the difference would be whether or not the general public has access to it or not. At the Hartford Healthcare facility, the general public sort of has access to that, right? If you need it, it's coming to get you. Whereas this would be a private helicopter, you're not chartering flights, you're not purchasing anything, you're not parking your car there to get on a helicopter and go somewhere else. This is somebody's individual vehicle that they would be landing and taking off.
So should we look at regulations that cover both commercial and private use?
You could, if you
And
want
if we're gonna do one, why don't we do them both?
Well, and I think, that's a reasonable question to ask. You could.
So, would it be the principal use or would it be an accessory use?
It would be an accessory use.
So my thought is, I guess I'm looking to you guys for some suggestions. You gave us a lot of regulations and it was a lot to kind of read through and pull pieces out of. But if you thought that the applicant wanted to create their own regulations to make sure it matched what they did, I would be comfortable with you saying go ahead and do it. But if it's something that you thought was also easy enough for you to make a suggestion of a proposed regulation, and then give it to us to review, and we can use the information you gave us to kind of say, well, we really like this, or make some changes. Either approach, I think, I would be comfortable with. But I do like it kind of being accessory to something else. It's not a standalone.
Not a primary use, right,
I
yeah,
agree with
definitely.
you. And I think most of the regulations I gave you to review are set up that way.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they are.
there were some very good ones there.
But you said somebody with a private, license and has a helicopter that could land in a residential zone now.
They could.
It's good.
So why can't they do that in a gateway?
They could land there as well. And that's what I mean. The difference here is that this person wants to build a physical helipad, and so you would be regulating the structure.
Gotcha, okay.
In this case, the property owner has a friend with a helicopter who doesn't like to land it up here because there's no nice place to land it. That's what it comes down to. However, I think Willie's point is well taken that we should discuss commercial operations as well. This may be a long-term dream, but we have had someone in the office, someone recently looking to buy up large properties in town with the idea of creating a resort getaway where New Yorkers would fly up via helicopter / drone. All that technology's not quite there yet, but why not get ahead of the curve if we're talking about it now?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Where are
because
there large properties in town?
You know, a lot of large. Oh, yeah.
Oh, you mean outside of town?
Oh, yeah, not
Not
Winstead.
town, yeah.
Winchester.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like, yeah.
There's property here.
Yeah, yeah. Any other
Right.
comments?
But I wouldn't want that discussion of that commercial property to derail our conversation about private sex.
Agreed, yeah.
The one-
One might be a lot more
Down.
complex.
Yeah, so if we have somebody interested, I don't want to delay that.
We should be able to regulate hours of operation, use.
I think you can do that.
You should be, I mean, that should be included
Yeah,
in
if you
it.
make it a special permit use, certainly,
Right,
then you can
that's what I'm
definitely
saying,
regulate
'cause
that.
that should definitely be in there, being it's
Okay.
So
for
those,
private use.
Yeah.
Oh,
those
yeah, yeah, okay, it
regulations
is
that you
a-
gave us, a lot of towns
you think-
regulated the
that-
number of landings a year.
That's possible.
Yeah, I don't know how we
Paying
police that.
attention to that.
That's sort of on the honor system at that point, just to hope
Yeah.
Right,
they,
yeah.
I don't think we wanna send Jeff out there every time a helicopter
No,
comes in
come on,
with a
geez.
pitch counter and stuff, you know?
That is a list.
Have to increase
Yeah,
the
why
staffing
not?
here for sure. Any other comments with regards to that?
I think it's worth going forward with.
Yeah, I do too.
We'll talk and figure out the path forward. Okay, thank you.
All right, so the number 8 is approval of minutes.
Wait, so can I just, I know I'm not seated, but under other business for discussion, we talked briefly about this modular ranch home. Is that something we should be looking at to remove from our regulations? That looks
Oh,
like a
absolutely.
single family
Yeah,
home. I
definitely.
don't
Yeah.
see why
Yeah.
we treat it any different.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been involved, 30 years ago, I was looking at, there's a manufacturing place over just on the eastern side of New York State.
Yep.
And, I mean, to watch what goes on and how they do it,
Put it this way, if that house can make it from Kansas to here in
Yeah,
pieces,
so it's-
No kidding.
it's probably one of the best-built houses in
They're
town.
usually stronger than,
well, and when you think in terms of what our weather is here in, in New England, for crying out loud.
And once they're put together, you can't tell the
No,
difference
you
between
cannot,
modular and
no.
stick-built.
And they've got to build,
Yeah.
I suspect that regulation's probably fairly old and.
I would say so.
geared towards sort
That
of
shouldn't even be there. That's, I feel bad that they've got to wait.
We need to clean up the definition, because you have, I forgot exactly how it's worded, but so you have this definition of manufactured homes, which includes modulars, but doesn't include, trailer units, but trailer homes really aren't a thing anymore. If you look at the HUD definitions, it's a manufactured home.
Oh, yes.
And so their definition is what we need to define manufactured home the way HUD does, and then we can have modular home definition, which would be sort of the prefab,
Right.
stick-built prefab.
Yeah.
modular would be treated like the same.
Would be treated
Would
like,
be
Yeah, it
trailers,
should be. Yeah, I
basically.
agree.
Right.
and actually, right, I mean, I don't even know, it might be worth taking modular home out of your use table altogether, just get rid of it, and then you'll have manufactured home,
Manufactured.
which meets the HUD definition, or is the same as the HUD definition,
Yeah.
and then.
Yeah,
And a single family home could include a modular.
I agree. We're way behind on that. I remember going to the.
Yeah, we should do that, I think, as soon as we can.
Yeah. Okay. All right, number 8, approval of minutes, March 24th, meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the March 24th meeting minutes.
Second, any comments, additions, changes? All in favor? I abstain. Any communication?
Just the one that I sent your way at the beginning of the meeting regarding the solar facility that already had siting council approval up on top of Spencer Hill, not to be confused with the one lower that does not have approval yet. We did walk the site this morning. Commissioner Marchand and Platt joined as well. Not a lot to see up there. If I were to pick a site, I'd probably pick that one. Not the one we see on the side. That's a different ballgame altogether. I think the biggest takeaway here was, barely any site work necessary. They're going to be able to just start piling in and, building
Biggest
this
site work
thing.
is putting a road in, I mean.
Yeah,
improving the
it's a
road that's
pretty
already
simple
existing.
operation
Right.
for this one. They're gonna unfortunately take that last row of trees down, the remaining row there, but we don't have any power to stop them, so. If you guys had anything else
But
to
I don't
add.
think as far as visibility, the ground mounted, they're not that high where they'll be that visible.
Yeah, those I don't
Those
think we'll be able to see, at least not easily,
No.
from the lake.
No.
If the lower one gets approval, that'll be a different
You'll see the whole thing
ballgame.
then,
At the Casio event last week that Shane and I were at, Jeremy was also there, we had a representative from the siting council there. And knowing that the legislation has already pretty much died for the, saturation argument, I brought it up anyhow, and asked her what kind of consideration do they actually give it for one right next door. She didn't really answer it, but I got it out there anyway. So, yeah. I wish I had a better report on that.
Anybody want to read this?
Hopefully when anything does come into the town from siting council for comments and stuff, that we get jump on it, especially for
Well,
the
it seems like they
energy
should be,
credits
yeah.
and things like that. Where this one, they're going into London.
Right.
It's crazy. We should be getting something more out of it than just the taxes.
No limitation on how many can go in?
No,
On how many? Oh, no, in a town?
Yeah.
No,
no, but that's what Torrington was fighting.
that's what the proposal was this year,
To limit or not limit?
to limit the amount in any given town. I don't remember all the ins and outs of it, but that equate that.
Nothing we can do about it anyway.
Face north.
Yeah.
All right, anything else anybody has?
No, sorry. I'll ask him.
Okay, motion to adjourn then.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Motion, sorry. Motion to adjourn.
I made the motion.
I made a motion.
I did,
George.
yeah.
Adam,
Right.
you're home early again
Sorry,
tonight.
asking.
You can move the table over here so you can see.
All right.
Good job.
So you, what'd you learn?
Yeah, counting numbers.